Hello and welcome to another episode of Chatting with the Cardinals. I'm Cooper Welch. Joining me as always is my co-host, John Washington. And today we've got another special treat. We've got the head football coach of Lamar University, Blane Morgan. Thank you so much for joining us today, Coach.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome to be with you guys.
Thank you very much again. And today we're going to be discussing with Coach Morgan, obviously, the impact of COVID-19 on his spring season, some of the challenges he's faced, and of course we'll get to the lighter-hearted stuff near the end of the episode. But first, Coach, I've heard a rumor that you actually had to move your family during this whole social distancing thing. I'm sure there's been some really challenging moments during that time.
Absolutely. I mean, we were directly affected by COVID-19 with our move. In fact, our stuff got delayed a little over a week and a half from the normal delivery time, and so that was for us. It was it really what it allows you to do is when you have a bed to sleep on and you have shelter and you have your family, it kind of grounds you and lets you know that that's kind of what you need in life. Is you need your family and you need a place to lay your head and shelter, and you can pretty much survive and thrive with just the basics. You don't need all the other stuff. So I think that's kind of what we didn't have our stuff for a little while, and our driver actually got sidelined because of a respiratory issue that he had. And so that just delayed our move a little bit, but it was just a minor blip on the screen.
Wow. I can't imagine going through something like that. But I'm glad to see you're on the other side now.
And then, yeah, we actually, my son and I thought it'd be a great idea to drive, and literally we missed the, California kind of went to the in-home, lockdown type deal shortly, like 2 or 3 days after we drove out of the state. So our timing was pretty good as far as my son and I leaving the state, and we even had some adventures along the way. So those we'll keep those with ourselves. But we had a fun drive out.
Absolutely. Well, we haven't seen the impact for football of a full season being canceled, but your spring game and your spring practices were. Talk about the impact that has had on your program as a first-year head coach, and what do you think that impact will be on the whole football world this 2020 football season coming up?
I think the hardest part, and I don't think a lot of people understand, just with football, there's so many interchangeable parts. There's so many moving parts just on a daily basis. And when you watch a football game, you're talking about 11 guys on offense, 11 guys on defense, and then each special team has a new 11 people on the field with each special team. And so there's so many moving parts. And I think with the new programs that are just now taking over this offseason, they really they don't have a great idea of what with no practice. Obviously, you don't know what you have personnel wise, and you don't get to really build an identity for your team. And so I think that's the hardest part, is just not knowing from a personnel standpoint what you have when you are going to get on the field, and then how that team's going to react together in different circumstances. And so I think those are the biggest challenges, just the unknown at this point. And then the more practice you have, I mean, the better you're going to be as a team, the more you're going to be able to react to different situations. So I think those are kind of the first things you look at from a football standpoint, without having any practice and coming into really a new situation. I think everybody around the country, to a certain extent, is facing all these same issues.
Coach, you're right that everybody's facing it, but you guys are new coaches. You're bringing in a whole new system. I could see you guys were building the team chemistry and the camaraderie with the guys, with the cage drills and everything like that. So, like, in what ways are you gonna try to combat, this unforeseen circumstance and making sure that team part is taken care of?
Yeah, I think up until spring break, we had done everything within the off season that we really wanted to accomplish. We did a cage drill, which was really dividing up into teams and doing team competition to really kind of push leaders out into the front, make them have to lead and learn what leadership's all about. And so that was really beneficial for us. The hardest part is going to be these next 2 months, with 2 months off. And I think what we have to, if there's anything you can learn and teach a team during this time is sometimes in life you're going to have things that you can't control. How are we going to make the most of those things? And so from just a football perspective, X's and O's perspective, I think you're going to see a lot of guys streamline what they do on the field. And then from just a conditioning and a workout perspective, you're going to have really, hopefully you get back and you can come back in June is what you're hoping, but you never know, that you have a detailed plan as far as how do you get your guys physically ready to compete. Always their safety is the number one thing that you're always concerned about, with injuries being such a key factor in football as far as your success goes. So those are just a few of the things I think we've thought about, and we're going to, just without spring practice right now, we're going to have to be pretty creative with moving forward with what we do from a football standpoint, and then conditioning and implementing both at the same time.
Absolutely. Well, what are some of the ways that you're facing those challenges? How are you preparing for the 2020 season right now?
Yeah, I think what you can do, you take a step back and you say, okay, what can we do right now? Where can we get better? And the things that make it a little bit easier to prepare is you're always recruiting as a football staff. And so what we've done is, and I think every staff in the country is probably doing this right now. And you get full 2 feet into recruiting, and then with your football and your video being able to be offline too, what you can do is start to really prepare for the season and the first few opponents. Just start to take a look at what you're going to see from an offensive, defensive, special team standpoint. And what I've done this week is just kind of start that prep and start looking at our first 2 conference games, Incarnate Word and Stephen F. Austin, and then hopefully try to find some video on our first game, which is Mississippi College. And so you start prepping and do that. And I think the biggest thing is just the accountability piece, trying to keep a thumb on your team, and first and foremost academically, have them finish the season, and then just on a daily basis trying to make sure that they're doing something as far as working out. And you just want them, to maintain some kind of stamina as far as strength and conditioning goes.
Right. Well, you talked about how it's going to be a little bit simplify the product on the field just because you haven't had all those practices and reps. And you talked about the challenges of keeping them honest and accountable academically and conditioning. But what are some of the less obvious impacts that the loss of these spring practices and games and all that time together is going to have on your program?
I think the less obvious. That's a really good question. I think the things that the public might not be able to see is really just that time together. I think is so valuable. Just gelling as a team, and that daily process, which we got in the off season, but now you take 2 months away from that, and then you try to really, you're going to have a 10-week period to get ready for the season, and you try to break that down. And so that time, that just daily, just guys working hard together, guys pushing through adversity. When it starts to get hot here, just and then timing throwing, timing on routes. And I think the number one thing that people won't see from an X's and O's perspective is just your ability to adjust. If someone on offense or defense does something that is unexpected in a game, the more your staff is together, the more your players are together, they kind of know how to adjust and how to make adjustments as far as in-game goes. And when you haven't been together as a staff and as a team, then there are going to be a lot of unknowns going into that first game. I mean, just lack of time together. That's a good question. It's something that that I haven't thought about those things that everybody else, because we kind of have a daily process right now with our staff and our team, what we're going through. And so it's a good question.
Well, you mentioned that the time together is the thing that's the less obvious impact, and you're a very personable coach. So I assume that's also probably the thing that you miss most about being separated from your team right now.
Absolutely. You just miss that daily time together, out running on the field, in the weight room, that time, just, them coming by the office or, leaving the weight room where you're just interacting with guys and getting to know them better. And it goes both ways. That time with our staff, with their position, just getting to know those guys. And, I think the teaching part, just trying to teach and encourage them and how to lead. I think that kids these days don't really get taught, okay, here's what leadership looks like. Here's how to lead. Here's step 1, step 2, step 3. And then that daily process. And so when you're talking about when adversity hits, you want those leaders to step to the forefront and lead your team and get through adversity. And so that daily, just, I think the learning process, we've had a really good learning part the first couple months of off season, but with 2 months on and then 2 months off, then I don't think anyone knows the implications of exactly what that's going to look like and the impact it's going to have when you do come back together as a team.
Absolutely. What are some of the lessons that you've learned during this time, both about being a coach and about being a husband, about being a father? What are some of those life lessons you're taking away from this time?
Yeah, I think we've learned a lot just as a family, because really as a coaching staff, we've had 2 months really without our families at all. And so complete separation from our families. And then you go back even further, when we started in August into the season. And so you're talking 5 months where there's limited contact with your family. And so for me personally, it's just kind of been the reset button on just the impact. And I have a 7-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they're in the most moldable ages of their life. And so that daily just interaction with them, just going and playing with them, shooting hoops. I think my son went through 3 different sports, 3 different seasons in one day, where we were shooting hoops and, throwing the football. And then, he went and took some swings and, with the bat and ball. So just the reset on the value and the impact that, that you have on your family, just being around and being a leader and being a rock with your own family. I think hopefully a lot of us are learning that spend so much time away from our families. And the value, that's what's with your own kids and your family. That's what's going to, mold the rest of their lives. And so the time we're away from our team, maybe we can really put all that effort and energy into just, molding and shaping the lives of our little ones.
Okay. Do you think that is the lasting legacy of this whole thing, is football coaches getting to grow and spend time with their families?
I think so. I think the lasting implications should be just what's important in life. What are the important things in life? And for me, it's been, kind of a reset on your family, and a lot of people, myself, your faith and what that means, and then just, appreciating others. And there are a lot of people that are just working tirelessly right now to try to, get this virus contained and keep it from spreading. And so I think just an appreciation. It's hard to do something right now for those people, but just, my wife has done a great job of teaching our kids, hey, let's take time to write a physical letter, and how much other people appreciate those little things in life. And so I think those are the lasting, hopefully those things will carry over once this passes through and we get back into our normal routines, and we can find ways to be so much more efficient at work that that we allow for this incredible time of family growth.
Okay. When football returns in September, what is your message to the Cardinal fan base?
I think the message to the fan base is going to be the biggest thing that I think the Cardinal fan base needs to do and realize is show up for these young men. First and foremost, we're going to do our best job to put the best product out on the field. And really, they want to see a team that plays together, that plays with incredible effort, and really a team. We want to create a team that doesn't beat themselves, and that plays, offense, defense, special teams, really complementary football is what we're going to try to play. We're going to try to play for each other. And if the fans show up, that's what they're going to see. And you do that, and you don't, you look up at the end of the fourth quarter and you see what the score is. But you're not always looking up there at the score. You're looking out on the field, and you're seeing how hard guys are playing. Are they playing together? Are they, are they playing together as a team? How are they reacting to adversity? And to the fan base, I hope they can show up and stand up and be excited, and be excited about Lamar University and the impact that this university is making on the Golden Triangle and Beaumont.
Okay. Well, now let's turn to a little bit more lighthearted stuff here. I've got two more questions for you. First, what are you doing when you're not working? How are you keeping entertained?
What are we doing? Oh man, we unpacking boxes. That's probably the number one thing. But going on, I think the coolest thing has just been going on these family walks where our kids are riding bikes, and my wife and I are jogging and walking and jogging, and just spending this meaningful time together. That's been the best part of it. With jumping on the trampoline, together as a family. But that's been fun. Just enjoying this time together. Reading a book, hanging out, and reading a story before they go to bed. That's it. But the time it goes fast. I mean, you think you're not going to be in your office, but you come into your self-made. All of us go into our self-made offices, and you think the time's just going to drag, and you look up and it's noon. You look up and it's 4 or 5, and it goes fast. But we're having fun. I mean, we're finding these I even bought a rope to hang from one of our tree limbs so that our kid, we can go another adventure. Just trying to create these adventures for our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my last question for you, we've asked pretty much everybody that's been on the show with us. We had Marco say Nutella. We heard Tick Price say ice cream. What is the one thing that you just have to have stocked up on in your fridge or in your pantry during this whole social distancing thing?
Because you don't want to say something that someone else has said.
Sure.
That's a really good question. I think the most common thing that we've got more eggs than you can. I mean, we have I think we've probably got 4 dozen eggs sitting in our fridge right now. And that's a food group that I think we eat every day. Eggs and bacon and turkey bacon, I think, is my wife's healthy. So she's very, very health conscious. So
sure.
We, I don't know if is that too boring? Eggs?
No.
We have and then whenever mom buys ice cream, she bought some chocolate chip ice cream. That last night I had a little bit of that. That was amazing. Cool. It was just really good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Coach. We hope
Cooper,
you
I want to
being
say
on
one more
with us.
thing real quick.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Coach, I just want to commend you and your staff. And, I'm a little bit, with this whole situation, I'm a little bit sad the fans won't get to see how you guys interact with them in particular. And I know we had a lot of things planned for the spring and stuff like that. And I really hope that we'll be able to do some stuff when we get back. But I just want to thank you guys and make sure that the fans know, like, how personable and how many great things that you guys were planning on doing with them and trying to get to know this community as well as possible.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I do want to say we had probably 6 or 7 things for this spring planned out. We had a Letterman crawfish boil. We wanted to include all our Letterman. The spring game. We had events for kids. We had a kids camp planned that was going to be free. And so we'll do all of this coming back next spring. So I want to make sure everybody knows that all these events that we had planned, we had 2 junior days for our recruiting. We had, multiple Letterman events. So all that's going to come back. So we're going to do that, and we're going to include the community and our students. I don't know if everyone's seen it, but our guys did a great job getting out and doing some community service, and hopefully the community realizes we're investing in the city of Beaumont and the surrounding areas, and hopefully they want to come out and they'll support, and see that and support Cardinal football.
Absolutely. Well, you heard it from the source himself. Please come out and support Cardinal football however you can. And hopefully we'll be back in the swing of things in June for summer practice and that first football game coming up in September. Thank you so much for joining us today, Coach Morgan.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to chat with someone besides your staff and your family. It's awesome. Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that's been another episode of Chatting with the Cardinals. I'm your host, Cooper Welch, reminding you once again to keep washing those hands.